Some have said that the direction of your focus is the direction of your life. For the Christian, our focus is crystal clear. We are to look to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. In every area of life, we are to lay aside the hindrances of our Christian journey and look to Christ as our example and strength to live the life He has called us to live. So today, let's starve our distraction and feed our focus on the Lord Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Walk Talks podcast and today's Friday Focus episode. All right, good morning and welcome to the Walk Talks podcast. This is Micah Herbster and I'm here with my brother, Malachi Herbster.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hard to believe it's 2025.
Happy New Year.
And so we're super excited about our Friday Focus segments through the year. Hope that you'll plan to join us each week for these episodes. We're absolutely delighted to have with us today evangelist Matt Galvan. So we just are wrapping up our winter retreat here at camp, and it's been a great week. And Brother Matt, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
It is a pleasure to be here. We have had a ball this last week at here at the winter retreat. This has been good.
The preaching has been just fantastic. I want to encourage you listeners, if you haven't gone over to our Southland preaching podcast, all of Brother Matt's messages will be over there. Mm-hmm. Tremendous encouragement, great way to start the year. And so thank you so much for being with us. Brother Matt, what do you do for a living and where are you from? And kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I did some growing up in Western PA and then a little bit in Wisconsin as well. And went to Bible college and graduated with an evangelism degree. And God called me into full-time evangelism. So that's what I do all year long throughout during the school year. I do revival meetings in different churches all over the United States. And we've been to every state except for Hawaii. But I haven't preached in every state. So, if you know any pastors in Hawaii, I just...
any of you Hawaii listeners, give Brother Matt a call.
Yeah, somehow, it's got to be God's will. I need to go. Yeah. It's God's will for me to get to Hawaii.
What's your favorite state that you've traveled to so far?
Okay, the most beautiful state might be Alaska. Because I love rugged and I love it's a frontier. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. California is also very beautiful, very diverse in its beauty. But those would be some of my like beautiful states. But you want to talk about people? I love my home state of Alabama, where we're based in now. I love the people in Alabama.
Yeah, and then tell us a little bit about your family as well.
Yep. So I met my wife right here at Southland. We were both counselors in 2013. We might talk about that a little bit later. But we met here, and we got married after we met, probably about 15, 16 months after we met. And we have 3 kids as of now. Our oldest son, Samuel, is 6, and then Campbell is 4, and Karis is 1. So we have 3 kids, and we're done.
That's pretty exciting. I'm sure there's never a dull moment on the road. Life in an RV. Brother Matt travels in evangelism full time, and he told us he has a house there in Alabama, but they're in an RV most of the time, and so I can imagine there are some lively moments with the kiddos. And
yes,
that's awesome.
I taught my kids to love football like I do, and so there's a lot of football and wrestling in the trailer, and
that's awesome.
We try to have minimal damage.
So you touched on this a little bit, but your time here at Southland, you worked here as a lead counselor, right?
I did.
In 2013 for the Red Team, right?
That's right. It was Red Team.
Pretty awesome experience. Mike and I remember it well when Matt was here. It was pretty awesome. We were able to be either on his team or cheer against him, but we were able to travel with him on the weekends as well, doing some ministry. But I kind of want to ask you this question, Brother Matt. In what ways do you think that your time here at Southland in the ministry that you shared with us here at Southland, in what ways did that prepare you for ministry, but then also just in life as well? Like why should somebody work at Southland? In what ways did that benefit you?
Yeah. Number one benefit of being here at Southland that prepared me for life, for ministry, met my wife. As I told the teenagers here, I said, hey, camp is great to meet a spouse because if she can be as sweaty as you get here in Louisiana and still look that gorgeous,
you know you're onto something.
You know you're onto something. Yeah, but So I'm serious. I met my wife here, and that is one thing that makes Southland very special.
Yeah.
Of getting to meet my wife. So some of you teenagers might think about working at camp. You never know. There might be a wonderful person here for you.
Hey,
even for some of you, it might happen. And but also, I thought about a couple other things that I think Southland helped me with was, I was a team leader, but I was also, of course, a counselor, had a cabin every week. And so learning to help people's personal things was important. That it's not just you preach to just a swath of, okay, there's the audience and you just kind of, that's my audience and I preach it to them, but to remember individuals and to learn individual needs, to craft the Bible. The Bible's already fitted for it, but to learn to apply the Bible to their specific needs, specific verses for specific needs. And, I think that was a big thing to learn. And, one other thing was that, that really helped here actually was when Mike, the director, asked me about working here at Southland. One of the things I asked him was, because I knew God had called me into evangelism, and I was almost done with college, and I said, so Mike, are there any opportunities to preach at all? I said, I don't care. I'll preach to like 3 people in Sunday school. I don't care. And he said, what I'll do is I'll put together, maybe we could do so. I'll check with churches. And then he asked, do you have other guys from school that are coming that can sing? And that was the first summer Eric Hansen.
That's right.
Came. Yep.
Our
and
operations
that's when,
here,
yep. And so he could sing. Another guy named Alec, he could sing. So all of a sudden we had a quartet. Yeah. And so Mike scheduled a bunch of churches. We were out almost every weekend.
We were.
And you guys came. Yeah, you guys came with us. And on several of those weekends. And I kind of like to think that we might have been the prototype for the ministry team that you do right now. That we were the first.
Inspiring,
the first run at it. So, so that was also a thing. I knew God called me into traveling evangelism. So anywhere that I could do it. When I was at school, we created our own team, went out and preached and sang around the South. During the summers, I did 2 summers of neighborhood Bible time. I got to travel as an evangelist for 2 summers. I traveled with an evangelist for an entire semester. Come here to Southland, travel on the weekends with an evangelist. That means a lot. So that was another thing that helped me with the evangelism ministry being here.
When did you sense the Lord's leading and calling in your life to evangelistic ministry? Was that at a pretty young age?
I was 14. Okay. So I surrendered. I got saved when I was 11. That was in January. And then that summer, I surrendered that I would serve God wherever He wanted me to be. And then when I was 14, I was at camp in Wisconsin, and I got right with God about some bitterness that was in my life. And that was a really cool week. There were people getting right with God about all kinds of things. People got saved that week. It was just a glorious week. And I got right with God, and I just thought, boy, everyone here should get right with God. Everyone should get saved and get right with God. And I remember looking up at the preacher and thinking, I don't know what he does, but I want to do that. And he was an evangelist. And that was the first time that God really put it on my mind. You ever thought about being an evangelist? And things progressed, and God created a burden in my heart. And then by the time I was 17, I traveled actually for 2 weeks as a 17-year-old with an evangelist.
No way.
And that was what confirmed it. Just seeing the needs and seeing God meet the needs. That was pretty cool. So
that's amazing.
That confirmed God's call on that. That's how it worked for me.
Yeah. What would you say to our listeners who are maybe kind of on the fence as to whether they want to be involved with ministry, or maybe they're thinking about, evangelism, pastoral work, youth ministry, something like that? What would you say to a young person, a young man specifically, if they were to go into evangelistic work at this point in life? What are some things that they can start doing? And I know you already touched on this a little bit, but as a teenager who's on fire for God, what things should they be focused on at this age in ways that they can make a difference?
Yeah, I would say, for one thing, obviously, this might sound like a trite answer, but be right with God in everything you know of. Because if you're not going to be right with God, you have to be a good Christian, first of all. Anyone is supposed to be a good Christian. So it's got to start there. Not that I'm the perfect example, but you've got to want to walk with God. And that is a big deal. If you're not going to walk with God, all but like give it up, of pursuing after something if you don't want to walk with God. So be willing to give up things for God. I would say also, especially if you think God might be calling you into evangelism or into any kind of ministry, I would say to you, start preaching now. I started preaching when I was a teenager.
Yep.
And those first sermons were bad. My parents have a VHS recording of my first sermon ever. It was not good. And but they have it, recorded. And
you got to start somewhere,
That's right. And as I preached, like I said, there was a passage of scripture in Romans 1 that just sobered me about people and their rejection of God. And that reality that sobered me, so that now I went from thinking this would be cool to now I had a burden. When I saw that people could be rejecting God to the point that God says, fine, go your way. You don't want me? Go your way. And that just all but scared me, and it changed the way I preached. In fact, at that point when I was 16, I yelled my whole way through that sermon. It changed from like totally boring to the opposite extreme, just nonstop yelling. You know why? It was just because I was so scared of, I can't believe that people would push God away. Don't do it. Don't push God away. And so now hopefully it's refined. So we had the right balance.
Yeah.
But that burden then came in. And so I'd say, get started preaching now. Don't wait. Ask your pastor, your youth pastor, where you can get involved in that kind of ministry. And don't wait to serve God. Serve God anywhere in your church. Don't wait on that. Be willing to vacuum, clean the bathrooms, do all of that. There's nothing that you're above. Get involved in ministry now.
Yes, I was going to say it's a very easy tendency to slip into, especially in our younger years of life. They're like, oh, ministry's one day. Like, one day when I'm Brother Matt's age or I'm Brother Mike's age or whatever, when I'm 30, 40, 50 years old, that's when I'll start serving the Lord. But yeah, doing the little things, doing the next right thing, leading then to... I just think it's cool to sit here across from somebody like you, Brother Matt, and look back on even like an experience here at Southland.
Yes.
That was part of God's way of forming you and shaping you and preparing you for where you're at today.
Yes.
And it's things like that just the Lord pieces those things together and makes a wonderful story. So that's incredible.
Yes,
so
sir.
you travel all over the place. How many
sir.
weeks a year are you on the road?
We're at 35 to 40. Actually, 2025, we have 40 weeks scheduled. That's the most we've had for now we have 1 week
amazing.
free in May. So that's what we have.
Incredible.
I mean, we take some breaks. We obviously take some break weeks, but 40 weeks are scheduled. So
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so Brother Matt, maybe just tell our listeners, so what does it look like in the life of an evangelist? Because I think some people this guy's here to preach for us. He says he's an evangelist. Like, yeah, he goes from church to church, but can you just tell our listeners, that maybe don't know specifically what an evangelist does? Like, what does your typical week look like?
Yeah.
And that's a loaded question, I know.
That's okay. Just think about, what do you do in a week? We have to do all that too. Plus we have a revival meeting. So just start with that. For example, do you do school? Of course you do. Well, our oldest, he is in kindergarten as of right now. And so, he's got to do school every single day. And so that's an important thing. Our kids are 6 and 4 and 1. So especially the boys, they got to be out playing. And so I'm going to go out and play with my kids. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. That's the right thing to do. I'm going to play with my kids. I'm going to, help them get ready for bed. I'm going to, all those kinds of things. And then on top of that, I do a lot of communication with texting and phone calling and emailing. More so, not so much to like introduce myself to people, but more so of like upcoming meetings to communicate with people or scheduling stuff with people who want to schedule. And of course, I do studying. I'm always preparing new messages. I don't just sit on, I have 25 good ones. No, I'm constantly studying, having as many messages as I can ready to go, preparing new ones. And so I study, and then, stuff on the trailer breaks, falls apart. You have to try to get out there and fix it and do stuff. And you got to do that during the days too. So,
So you're making church parking lots your home for a week.
That's it.
And then you pack up and you travel to the next church, and it's like rinse and repeat almost the same thing. And it's go all the time pretty much. And
yes, because we take a fifth wheel trailer like an RV, and we take that everywhere we go, because I want my wife and my kids to be with me. I don't like traveling by myself. I want them with me.
I'm sure like traveling, you see a lot of different churches, a lot of different places. I'm curious if you could just share with us some things that you see in the church at large. Like it's very easy to get into a bubble. I think if you're in one location for a long time, you only see one church, one set of people, which there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but you have a unique perspective that you're seeing dozens of churches per year. Right. What are some of the biggest challenges you think that are facing the church? What is the church doing well at large, abroad? What are we struggling with in America right now, you think?
So, you can have all the basics of like, okay, yes, we do need to witness more. Yes, we need to be less worldly. Yes, we need to be right with God about sin, read our Bibles, all those things. But if there's one I notice, I think, especially in churches, this certainly as adults, sometimes they think it's a teen problem, but actually it's very much an adult problem, is commitment. Because think about this. Just even you all who are listening, think about it. When you are making a plan about something and you got some friends, you're thinking about, oh, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. What, and you're thinking, and it's, maybe it's Wednesday and this is a weekend thing you're talking about. What do? You say, does that sound like fun? Yeah. Well, let's text on Friday and see if we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. There's no commitment. None at all. And that's not a sinful thing to say, well, maybe we'll do this weekend. Let's just text on Friday and see if we still want to do it. But that mentality bleeds over into Christianity, into the churches, is there's just no commitment. Well, I'll serve the Lord. If that works out after I have gone to college, gotten the degree I want, and I have the career path I want, and I'm all set, if I have time for God, I will include him. Promise, I'll include him. If I have all the time, everything else set in my life, and I like how my life is, then I'll include God. And that's called idolatry. When God's not number one, that's called idolatry. And there's just this lack of commitment to God, that he is a convenience. To many Christians, he is a convenience. He's not Lord. He is, they want him as their savior, but many don't want him to call every shot on everything. And so that's one thing I see is definitely people struggle with commitment.
That's a huge challenge to my heart, because you evaluate your own life. And you see it in people. It's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier to see in people probably than to point out in our own lives. But where am I not as committed as I should be to being serious about my Christianity, about Christianity and about my faith? It's very easy to put on a show, I think, in church and not be the real deal. In other words, at home you're one person, at church you're another person. Yeah. That's a huge challenge. But the commitment, I think that's so good what you're saying. The commitment flows through all of it. So the same person that's at church, it's the same person that's at home. It's the same person that's at school, that's at work, et cetera, committed to the Lord.
Yeah. And, commitment like drives your actions, right? What you're committed to is what gets you going in the day. And too many times there's Christians that, and even, young people we see here at Southland and, myself included, that our lack of commitment to the Lord really causes there to be a lot of other ancillary issues in our life. And, I played basketball throughout high school and college, and I can't help but think, if you want to be a good athlete, if you want to be a good basketball player, you're committed to that. You're going to spend time in the weight room. You're going to spend time in the gym. You're going to spend time watching film and being committed to practice in your life. And you have that commitment, so you see those results. And it's no different in our spiritual life, as we ought to be people, young people, Christians, the youngest to the oldest, that are committed to our calling, and that is our standing with Jesus Christ. And we are Christians. We are called out. We are separate. We're different from the world.
Right.
What a challenge that is.
And God can use, I was just thinking as Malachi was talking, like how God can use even like a week like this here at Winter Teen Retreat to reshape, and be kind of a solution to some of that. And I wonder, Brother Matt, are you experiencing that? Like as you travel, it sounds kind of unique to say, like, are you seeing results? Like that's not really what I'm asking, because obviously it's not you that's bringing about the results in a revival meeting. That's the Lord bringing revival. But like, what do you think, I guess is what I'm asking, is what do you think is the solution to the lack of commitment in the church?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just preach about it and tell people, I make it very blunt. This is what Jesus said, because those passages are the blunt ones where followers left Jesus. I think that was when he even turned to his disciples and said, y'all going to go too? You know? And they said, no, you've got the words of life. We're not leaving you. And I don't know if it was that exact, I don't know if that was that exact passage, but that was what happened was people quit being committed to following Jesus because he said, no, you want to be a disciple? It's going to cost you. You're going to have to be committed.
Yeah.
And like a sport, people don't want to be, some are like, oh my goodness, I got to be at practice at 5:30. Oh my goodness, I can't eat that. I can't drink soda. Oh my goodness, I have to exercise this much and be in the weight. Oh my goodness, and this many practices and this many games and all that. Well, yeah, do you want to be an athlete or no?
Yeah.
Well, I do, but maybe not at that price. Okay, then bye.
Yeah.
And that is and Jesus says you want to be a disciple, you want to be used, it's going to cost you. And it's going to cost commitment.
Yeah, I think that's good to give consideration to that more often. Today is January 1st of 2025 that we're recording this podcast. A lot of people making commitments today, that's for
Right,
sure.
right.
Even spiritual commitments, which of course we want to encourage, but it's not good enough to just make the commitment. You got to live the commitment. And that's a great challenge to all of us. Brother Matt, thank you so much for joining us. This
pleasure.
has been really encouraging. What's the best way for people to learn more about you, to kind of connect with you, if they want to contact you, if there's a pastor listening, to connect with you, like on scheduling you for revival meetings? What's the best way to do that?
Simply evangelistmattgalvan.com. You can go there, or just Google evangelist Matt Galvan. There's a contact up at the top of the website. There's a button that says contact, and that's got my cell phone number. It's got my email address on there. And even for you listeners, if there's a question you want to ask, maybe something has been triggered in your mind of something you're thinking about, send me an email or send me a text. I don't mind that. I'm not, this isn't some, some companies, they put an email on there, but they clearly never check it, and, I do, I really do. And I make an effort to respond, to all who message me or something. So if you have a question, please send me a question. If it's something about your walk with God, that'd be a big deal. But you can, learn about our ministry there at evangelistmattgalvan.com and, see a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the description of the podcast. So head down to the description. You can click the links. And thank you so much again for joining us. Guys, thank you for joining us on the Walk Talks podcast. And be sure to tune in next week. Scott Brad will be bringing some devotionals to us. And then we'll have another Friday Focus episode next week. And thanks again, Brother Matt. Appreciate it so much.
Yes, sir.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Friday Focus, presented by the Walk Talks podcast. Make your plans to join us next week for another set of podcast episodes that will encourage you in your walk with the Lord Jesus Christ.